Everyone from time to time gets the opportunity to be a part of something bigger than themselves, a sports game. You sit in the not-so-comfortable stadium seat and watch in anticipation, waiting for your favorite team to compete at the highest level. The crowd is buzzing with excitement, and you can feel it in the air. As the game gets started, everything around you is amplified. The sound of excitement from spectators, the smell of hot dogs and popcorn, and the sea of rivaled colors. You eye your favorite player and stare in awe as he or she does what seems like the impossible. All this adrenaline is boiling up inside of you as you shout from the top of your lungs for your team to win. You are invested. You are part of something big, bigger than yourself. Being a part of this atmosphere is what I see for my future. My name is Alta de Leon. This year in ISM, I've decided to study sports management. My love for sports began around the age of 4 when my parents signed me up for every sport imaginable. Although I don't play half as many sports as I used to, the passion still exists. These experiences overall have helped shape the person I am today. As I begin to look beyond high school and into a future career, I believe the energetic atmosphere, personal connections, and competitiveness involved with the sports business would be an environment I would thrive in. The areas of sports management that interest me the most are management, marketing, and law. Each area requires a creative, intelligent mind that understands how the sports business works. In order to be prepared for these requirements, I have dedicated my research to becoming more educated on the career options, skills needed, and opportunities available. One of the main parts of my research is interviews. So despite being nervous about going out and meeting professionals, I knew that I needed to abide by the quote of my study: "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." Wayne Gretzky. So to start on the progress of my future, I wanted to make sure that I took every chance I could to meet professionals and to put myself out there so I could learn everything I possibly could. And so I wanted to make sure I took a broad approach and not limit myself. So with my first interview, I interviewed Mr. Jordan Moy. He is a top NFL agent in the area who owns his own management agency. And so one of my biggest takeaways from him was kind of understanding what the agent field requires of someone, and it's really a service business. You are the person that is their go-to for the athlete, and you are responsible for everything on the business side for them, because their job is to go out on the field and play every Sunday or every Saturday, depending on what kind of sport they're in. And so it was just really interesting to learn about how much commitment is involved with being an agent. My next interview was with Ms. Melissa Janetta. She is the Director of Business Development at FC Dallas, and it was really interesting to hear about how everything in the sports game is a business, and how everything is interconnected, and how marketing is involved, sponsorships, and how it's important to make sure that you get people to the game, because that's how you'll make money. And so just hearing more about all that is involved is something that really interests me, and so I really like what position that she has, and something that I would definitely consider for a future career. My next interview was with Miss Lori Bland. She's the Director of National Sales at Learfield, which is a collegiate marketing agency. And it was really interesting to hear how she worked her way up from being a sales intern to now being the Director of National Sales. And so just everything that she learned helps her get to the next position. And I think that's really interesting, because internships are something that are very important being in the sports business. And so just hearing how she was able to work her way up through internships just showed how valuable they are. And so my next interview was with Mr. Craig Zurich. This is probably by far one of my favorite interviews. Just being able to hear all about his position and how important it is. He is the Director of Brand Development and Media at Dallas Cowboys. And as we all know, the Dallas Cowboys are the most valuable franchise in the world, valued at $4 billion. And after talking to him and hearing everything that he does with his position, I think he is one of the men that is definitely should be accredited with making this possible, because he is responsible for the brand. And so everything that he's done is help make the franchise be valued at that crazy amount. So my next interview was with Mr. Kelvin Smith. He is a lawyer, graduated from Harvard for his law degree, and he is the Director of Business and Legal Affairs at Learfield. It was very, very interesting to hear everything that he has to do, because being someone with such a great educational background, he continues to learn every single day on the job, which is beyond me. Whenever you go, he actually went to Stanford undergrad, and then Harvard Law. So you can't really beat that kind of education, yet every single day he learns something new. And he said that that's just what it takes to be a sports lawyer. And so after talking to him about being a sports lawyer, it really interested me further to kind of look into that career field, which I did through research assessments. But I think after talking to him, I really kind of got an idea that being a sports lawyer is something I would want to do in the future. And so with that in mind, I interviewed Mr. Paul Schoonover. He is a lawyer. He is a lawyer at he's a partner at a firm, but he was retiring. So his position is professor of sports law at Southern Methodist University, but he does have a law background. And it was really interesting to talk to him about all that he did during his law career and learning about how sports was kind of sports law isn't really a law field, but more an accumulation of different law areas. And so just kind of learning more about that from him was really important, and also how it's important to focus on your weaknesses, because he was not a very good writer, neither am I, but he was able to work on that, and it was something that he says is very important. So I'm definitely going to be taking his advice to make sure that I work on my writing skills. My next interview was with Mr. Sam Schmidt. This is for more the marketing approach of my interests, and he's the senior marketing manager of sports at Frito-Lay, and he really taught me or showed me that the importance of marketing is to make sure that it's seamless, and that people don't really notice that it's there, but they do notice, just not, I don't really know, like they just don't notice it right off the bat. Just kind of like it goes into their mind, and then whenever they're making purchases in the future, it's like, oh, well, Frito-Lay, I've seen that before, or chips or Tostitos with the Tostitos Plaza at the Dallas Cowboys. And so it's just really interesting to hear about all that they do. And so with that, he led me up to reference Ms. Laura Colvin. She's the director at Genesco Sports Enterprises. And Genesco Sports is basically a third-party marketing agency who works as an intermediary between leagues and teams. And so it was really interesting to see how involved that she is with the sports management field. And that's something that really interests me, because she works with every aspect, businesses, corporations, teams, leagues. And so she really told me that it's very important to network, because you're going to have to meet different people and work with all kinds of different people, and you never know who will know someone else. And so just networking, her telling me about how her networking experiences really showed me that I need to make sure that I network and gain connections with professionals, because you never know when they'll help. And then for my last interview, I had it with Mr. Jason Cohen, who's the general counsel at the Dallas Cowboys, and he talked to me more about the law portion of sports and how everything in sports happens because law is involved. And I thought that that was probably the most interesting thing, and the way that he talked to me about different areas of law that you wouldn't expect, like city government with Frisco ISD and the city of Frisco combining with the Dallas Cowboys, is something that he has to be fluent on, is how the government is involved with law and how that is going to pertain to the sports franchise. And so it's just really interesting to hear all about that and how you wouldn't expect that, but it's something that you have to know. And so with that, with talking with him, I even had a further interest in learning more about being a sports lawyer. And so I really am very grateful for having the opportunity to be able to meet all of these professionals, especially with being such high prominent professionals in the field. And so each one has left me with a lasting impact. And so along with these interviews, I was also able to do assessments. And I've done a lot of assessments over Career Outlook and then sports law individually. But I think one of my most important assessments was on the Olympics. And so just kind of learning about how the Olympics have evolved from ancient games to the modern games has something that's really interested me, and how that the tradition of fair play has always been the #1 priority. And so that's led me to devote my original work to the Olympics. And so I've decided to do a framework on the sport of swimming, and just kind of how the marketing, the management, and the law are all correspond and work together to put on the Olympic Games. And so I'm really excited to see where my research takes me, and continue to work and learn from my interviews and assessments so that I'm prepared for any career in the sports field. Thank you for listening.
That was so good. That was good.
I kind of